Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to remind you, so the whole school is remote this next coming week, and this is Friday the 9th. So the videos are still here for you to use if you want to do the videos and do it on your own. You can also come and Zoom with me, okay? So if you go to your home page, there's an announcement that says I've got Zooms going on. It tells you information for the remote lessons and stuff. So every period, I'm going to have a live Zoom meeting going where I go over the work just like I would do as if people were here in class. So if you want to hear the lesson live and then be able to ask questions and things, then you can come Zoom with me anytime during the day. Does not have to be your period, okay? You can come to any period that works. So there's a schedule there on that announcement that tells you when I'm doing the second period, when I'm doing third period. I don't have a first period class, so there won't be one first period, but there will be a second period Zoom, a third period Zoom, a fourth period Zoom at noon, a fifth period Zoom, and sixth and an eighth period Zoom, okay? So those are the ones that I have in there. All those times are listed. I will be here available for the first 20, 25 minutes. If nobody gets on, then I'll shut it down at 25 minutes. If I have people with me and we still have more questions going on, I'll keep going longer than what I said I was going to do it. But it all depends if I have people. So anyway, there it is. We'll have Zooms today. So remember, we're doing patterns, and the fancy word for patterns is sequences. And we are doing arithmetic sequences right now. So we have the arithmetic sequences and geometric sequences. And we're going to do arithmetic again today. So arithmetic, remember, is when you're adding or subtracting to get to the next term. D, little d, represents the common difference. That is the thing that's being added or subtracted. It could be a positive number. It could be a negative number. If it's a negative number, that means you're going to subtract it. If it's a positive number, you're going to add it. A sub 1, sub like submarine, means that 1 is down low. Okay, it's not on the same level as A, it's down low. So A sub 1 represents the first term. In this particular pattern, the first term is 10. So A sub 1 equals 10. The A sub n, that's like telling you which term to go look for. This is generic, and then they will plug in a number. They'll say, oh, go find the fourth term. Well, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 25 was the fourth term in the sequence. They may ask you to find the 25th term or the 130th term, okay? So if you don't want to make a long list all the way out to 130, that's when we're going to use the explicit formula, okay? It finds any term. It starts with A sub n, and they'll tell you what to use for n, like if they want you to find the 88th term, they put an 88 there. You'll plug in the first term, A sub 1, which is 10, and then you'll plug in your d, which in this case is a plus 5, so this would be 10 plus 5, parentheses, n minus 1, close your parentheses. And then if you're looking for the 88th term, you would plug in 88 here. And then this would all be numbers on this side, and you would just go simplify those numbers, okay? So I'm not sure if I'm turning it right. There we go. So you'd have a number here, and you'd plug in 88 for the 88th term, and then just do the math on the side, and that will give you the 88th term. We're going to practice that today, all right? So let's look at the worksheet and talk about which problems you have to do, because you're not doing the whole worksheet, but you are doing a pretty good variety of stuff on it. So on the very first one, which is creating patterns, this is like the warm-up part of the worksheet. And it says, the example is start at 46 and create a pattern with the rule add 3. So you're going to add 3, but you start with the number 46. So the first number is 46. You write it there on your paper. And then we want to fill in the pattern. So we're adding 3. So 46 plus 3 is 49, right? 49. 49 plus 3 is 52, so you write 52. 52 plus 3 is 55, so you write 55. 55 plus 3 is 58, so you write 58. 58 plus 3 is 61, so you write 61. So you will have the 6 first numbers of that pattern on your paper. So that's all you do is for whatever number it is, you write the 6 numbers in a row, commas between them. Then it says, what is the 5th number? So just go circle the 5th number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I circled the 58. They had blanks over here, but since none of us are doing it on the actual worksheet, you're just doing it on your paper. So for number 1, you're going to start with 25, and then you're going to add 9. And so you write the next number, the next number, the next number, the next number, the next number. So you'll have 6 numbers on your paper, and it says, what is the 4th number? So go count over to the 4th one and circle the 4th one, okay? So that's all you're doing. You're not doing this whole paper, though. I want you to do number 1. You're listening to the numbers you're doing. You're doing number 1, number 3, number 5, number 6, and number 8. Okay, so that's 5 problems total. But some are adding and some are subtracting. I want you to do a few of each, okay? So 1, 3, 5, 6, and 8. Those are the only ones you need to do on that front page where you're making a pattern, okay? All right, now on the next page, this is what we're doing on this one. We are going to do 1 and 2 together on this next page. Okay, we're going to do these together. I need to see this work on your paper. We are doing them together, which means you are also doing them on your paper. If you don't do these two problems, you don't get grades on it. You get zeros for those. So do these two on your paper. Okay, so I will do it with you here. But we're going to do number 1 and number 2. After that, there are 4 more problems, and you're going to pick 2. Okay, we're going to do the top 2 together. You do those, and then pick 2 more to do on your own, and then check your answers with the answer key that will be at the end or on the assignment, right? Because I always give you the answer key on the assignment. So altogether, you will have 4 problems done from this paper on your paper, okay? The third page, what do you need to do on the third page? We are going to do 7 and 8, the top 2 together. So 7 and 8 need to be done on your paper. And then you can either choose to do the left-hand side or you can choose to do the right-hand side, okay? Your choice on that, but you have to do 7 and 8, and then you'll either do 9, 11, and 13, or you'll do 10, 12, and 14. So altogether, you will have 5 problems done, 2 at the top and then 3 more down the sides, depending on which sides you want to do. Now, there are 4 problems at the bottom. You will do all 4 problems on the bottom. Again, in the video, I will do a couple of them with you, and then you will finish the rest of them off, but all 4 should be on your paper, okay? So 5 on the top, all 4 on the bottom. Then, for the last page, I am going to do the left-hand side with you, okay? So you're going to fill in some blanks over here. You're not going to have to draw pictures. Don't feel like you have to do anything like that. We're just going to fill in the numbers, okay? So you're going to do the left-hand side with me, and then you're going to do the right-hand side on your own. And again, there will be an answer key at the end. So this whole page will get done, all right? And so if you have any questions, watch the video. And if you don't know what to do on something or just don't understand how I got an answer on something, then email me or come join one of the Zoom meetings, okay? And again, those are in the announcements. They give you all the times in the announcements, okay? And it's the Zoom link on my homepage. You just click that link during those times and I will be there, okay? All right, so now let's go do these problems. We've already talked about the first page, so let's go look at the second page. Here we go. Here is the second page. I'm gonna make this bigger. So the directions say they're gonna give you a sub 1, which is the first term, and they're gonna give you D. D is what you're adding or subtracting. They want you to write the explicit and recursive formulas, and then we're going to find the nth term here. So here's my a sub 1. It's negative 30. That is the first number in my sequence. So, and then there's a comma here. So that comma is separating these pieces that they've given me. They gave me the first term. They gave me the D number, what means that it's a negative 3, so I am subtracting 3 in this pattern. And then they're going to want me to find the 39th term. I am not going to want to continue this pattern down to 39, so I'm going to use the explicit formula to find the 39th term. But let's go ahead and fill in what we have. This is like the pattern over here. The ends are like your first term, second term, third term, fourth term, fifth term. So you can take a pattern or a sequence and make it into a table, just like you would if this was X and this was Y, which is basically kind of what we're doing. It's the same thing as a table for an equation. So I'm letting my term, the number of the term, first term, second term, third term, be my X numbers, okay? But this is the actual pattern over here. So what is the pattern starting with? Negative 30. So negative 30 is my first term. What math are we doing? We're subtracting 3. So if I take negative 30 and subtract 3, literally in the calculator, negative 30 minus 3, that equals a negative 33. Because that's bad guys and more bad guys. I have a lot of bad guys. So negative 33 is the second term. Subtract 3 again, you get negative 36. Subtract 3 again, I get negative 39. Subtract 3 again, and you get a negative 42. So I have completed the table by just subtracting 3. This is the pattern. Negative 30, negative 33, negative 36, negative 39, negative 42. Again, positive and negative numbers, if you're not really strong with those, use the calculator. There is a calculator in the lower corner, which is a scientific calculator. You kind of have to be careful with that though, because it's, you put in the number and make it negative. So on this one, at the beginning, you would put in the 30 and then put the little plus or minus sign to make it negative, right? So now it's a negative 30, and then you can say subtract 3, and that is a subtraction key, okay? So put in the 30, make it negative, and then subtract 3. And then you would put in the negative 33, well, you put in 33, and then change it to negative and subtract 3 again to get the next one, right? So the scientific calculator is a little bit more tricky than just the basic Inspired calculators. We will eventually get the Inspired calculators on y'all's laptops. They just have not gotten it there yet. Okay, but in the meantime, you can use that scientific calculator. Okay, so we did the table, and now we want to write the explicit formula. Remember, the explicit formula is what we did yesterday, and it's on that poster over there that we just looked at. It's also under the resources in Unit 2 posters. And I think I have a link in the assignment where it says, here's the Unit 2 poster right here. So you could pull that up, take a picture with your phone, and have those formulas right there in front of you for you to look at. Okay, so the explicit formula says this. A sub n, small n down, equals A sub 1. What is my A sub 1? The very first term. I drop that number in. And then it says plus d, or minus d if it's a subtraction. And this one is a subtraction, so minus 3, then parentheses, n minus 1. That is the explicit formula for this pattern. It has A sub n, and it's got n minus 1 here, always, always, always. Okay? Now, if I want to find a specific number, this is when I plug numbers in for n. I want to find the 39th term. So I'm going to use this formula, and I'm going to find the 39th term. So A sub 39. A sub 39. I just plugged in a 39 for the n. So where the n is over here, I'm going to plug in a 39 also. So my n is 39, my n is 39. That's how that formula gets used. Equals. This part is still the same. All right? All I've got to do is put this right-hand side in the calculator. Okay? So scientific calculators, again, it's a little bit trickier. You can still do it. You might even do it in pieces. You might even try the Desmos calculator and look for just the plain add subtract feature of it and not use the graphing feature. But if you can find just the plain add subtract feature, I'll play around with that and see if I can come up with some better ways for that. But you're doing inside parentheses first. So what's 39 minus 1? If you want to break it down and do it in pieces, 39 minus 1 is 38. So now I have 38. And there's nothing between the 3 and the parentheses, so this is multiplication. So you can multiply 3 times 38, and that answer is going to be negative. So whatever that answer is, let's see, 3 times 8 is 4, carrying a 2, let's see, 9 and 2, 114. So that became a negative 114, and then I have a negative 30 sitting in front of that. So then I have a negative 30 and a negative 114. So if you do 30, change it to negative, subtract 114, I know that the scientific calculators are not the easiest to use, but that's going to wind up giving you negative 144. So negative 144. That is just doing this math on the side. A39 is equal to negative 144. We're just doing the math on the right-hand side and simplifying that down. So whatever calculator you have at home to do that on, go for it with the calculator, okay? Don't feel like you need to do this math in your head or do it step by step like I did. If you've got a calculator you can just plug it into, fantastic. If not, you may have to do it more like this. Get that number with the calculator, multiply these two, get that number, and then add these two together with your positive and negative numbers with the calculator. Okay, so there's my 39th term. So you find the 39th term or any particular term using that explicit formula. But write the formula first, and then go find the 39th term, okay? These are two separate steps. I want to see both of these on your paper, okay? Now, the last thing to ask you for is the recursive formula down here. So on your, number 1, on your screen, you'll have a little T table, and you'll write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then put these 5 numbers in. You'll write explicit formula and write it. You'll write A sub 39 below it and find it, and just, then you can, I guess what you could do on your paper is then just say A sub 39 is equal to negative 144, okay? So on your paper, you need to have explicit formula. You need to show me how the 39th term is going to be filled in, and then exactly what it is, okay? So show me this step, and then show me the answer, all right? I want to make sure everyone knows what I want to see on the paper. So I want to see the substitution before you show me the answer, so don't just show me an answer. Then, recursive formula, straight from the poster. I'm just going to copy it down. A sub n is equal to A sub n minus 1. This is also a submarine. It's down low, okay? N minus 1, and here's my n. And then the rest of it is just the plus d. So where it says plus d, I want it for this particular pattern. So what is my d? It's a minus 3. So that means in this one, it's going to be minus 3. So this is the recursive formula for this particular pattern, all right? Recursive formula, or explicit formula for this pattern, recursive formula for this pattern. I was going to point out the recursive formula isn't very useful. All it does is it finds the very next term, because this A sub n minus 1 means I'm taking a term and then subtracting 3 to get the next term. So all this does is says if I want to find the don't write this down on your paper, but if I wanted to find the fifth term, it says take the 5 minus 1, which is the fourth term, and subtract 3. So all it is telling you to do is to take the previous term and subtract 3. Well, I can do that without a formula, right? I can just take any term, subtract 3, and get the next one. So all the recursive formula does is give you the next term. It's handy when you're doing computer programming. It's not really practical as far as we're concerned, but what it does do, because some of you are curious then as to why we're even looking at it. On the STAR test, they're going to give you information with the recursive formula. They will give you the recursive formula. And then when you look at this, can you see the first term in here? No. Nowhere do you see a negative 30. But do you see the D in here? Yes. The recursive formula shows you the pattern. So they're going to give you the pattern by giving you the recursive formula and not tell you that it's the pattern. They want to see if you know that that means you're subtracting 3 to get the next one. So that's why we're going over it. And we'll have some of those in here in just a few minutes. Okay, so this is what you're doing. That was number 1. You make a table. You write the explicit formula, you show the substitution for the 39th term, and then you write down your answer, a sub 39 is negative 144, and then you write the recursive formula. So that's what you're doing on each of these problems. Okay, let's try number 2. And then you get to do 2 on your own. So number 2, this one will go faster because I've done all the explaining. Here is my pattern over here. So these are my a sub 1 is my first term, it's negative 5. So negative 5 goes in for my first term. So this is my sequence over here. So there's the comma to separate these things. D is negative 4. So again, I am subtracting 4. So this is negative 5 minus 4, and that gives you a negative 9. And then I'm going to have my negative 9 minus 4, and that's going to give me a negative 13. And then I have negative 13 minus 4, and that's going to give me negative 17. And then negative 17 minus 4 is going to give me a negative 21. So the pattern is you're subtracting 4 over and over and over. So there's my table. So on your paper, you have a little table. Then we're going to write the explicit formula. A sub n is equal to the first term, and then your D minus 4, parentheses, n minus 1. That is the explicit formula for this pattern. When you look at it, you can see the first term, and you can see that you're going to subtract 4, subtract 4, subtract 4. Then they want you to find the 35th term. So I'm plugging 35 in for the n. So a sub 35 is equal to negative 5 minus 4, parentheses, 35 minus 1. I'm looking for the 35th term, so my n's become 35. I'm just doing the math on the right-hand side only, okay? So you do the 35 minus 1, which is 34, multiply it times the 4, and then you'll have a negative 5 minus some number, whatever that number is. And I don't think I have it written down. And then you'll just do the bad guys and more bad guys and come up with that number. And let's see, a sub 35 was, there it is, a sub 35 is a negative 141. So on your paper, once you've got this, you could just say, hey, it equals negative 141. Somewhere I need to see a sub 35 equals that, but I need to see the substitution first, and then you can tell me what the answer was, negative 141. Recursive formula, a sub n, still a sub n, yeah, is equal to a sub n minus 1, and then the d, minus 4. That's all the recursive formula is, but it's always this formula, and then you just plug in the d number. Over and over, you just plug in the d number. Again, not practical, but when you look at it, you can see that the pattern is subtract 4, subtract 4. Okay, so that's number 2. So now y'all go do 2 more of this worksheet. Okay, so altogether you should have 4 on your paper. The 2 we did together, plus 2 more. Pause the video whenever you need to. You can always pause it, come back, rewind it, look at it again. All right, next page. This one. Oh, is this the same one? I think I've got the same one up here. Here we go, the other side. Okay, I'm going to do 7 and 8 with you, and then you're going to do either the left side or the right side to finish it off. Find a sub 1 and d to write the explicit recursive formulas. So this time they give you the pattern, and they want you to find a sub 1, and they want you to figure out what d is. So a sub 1, well, that's easy. It's the very first number. 22 is my first number. A sub 1 is 22. D, this is where you got to look at the pattern and see if you can figure it out. If you can look at that and see that you're, from 22 to 32 and 32 to 42, I think I'm adding 10, right? If you're not sure about that, you can take any number and subtract the previous one. If you want to do 52 minus 42, Or you could do 42 minus 32. Just put these in the calculator. That minus that, or that minus the previous one. It's always a term minus the previous term. So it's subtraction. 52 minus 42, 42 minus 32. All of these are going to give you the answer 10, and it's a positive 10, which means you're adding 10. Okay, so I wanted you to see how to do it with the calculator or just eyeballing it and figuring it out that way. So we're adding 10, so D is 10, or plus 10 if you want to put the positive sign in front of it. Then they want you to find a sub 28, so I need the explicit formula first. So let's write that. A sub n is equal to the first term, D number plus 10, because it's a positive 10, we're adding 10, parentheses, n minus 1. Now, to find the 28th term, I'm going to plug in a 28 and a 28. So I'm going to, on your paper, you would write the explicit formula, and right below it, go ahead and find the a sub 28. A sub 28 is equal to 22 plus 10, parentheses, 28 minus 1. So all I did was plug in a 28 for the n, since I'm looking for the 28th term. That's why the explicit formula is so handy. I don't have to make a long list. You do the math. 28 minus 1 is 27. 27 times 10, because that's what this math is, gives you 270. And it's a positive this time, and I have 22 being added to that. So I have 22 plus 270, which gives me 292. So 292. So on your paper, you tell me a sub 1 is 22, you tell me D is 10, you tell me a sub 28 is 292. Write the explicit formula and tell me it's the explicit formula. You can put a big E next to it if you want to. Now, we have not done the recursive formula yet, but I do want to see this substitution step. Okay, so everything up here is what I want to see on your paper other than the math part. So I want to see the substitution step when you're finding a sub 28. And the last thing you need to write is the recursive formula. So I'm just going to put it right here. Well, I'm going to erase this right now, but hopefully you've already got that written on your paper. You can pause it, go back and look at it, make sure you have that part written down. But then you need to tell me the recursive formula, so put a big R on your paper if you want to for recursive. A sub n is equal to a sub n minus 1 down low, and then the D number. And it's a positive D because I'm adding 10, so plus 10. And that's the recursive formula. All right, so there's number 7. We're going to do number 8 together, and then you're going to do either the left-hand side or the right-hand side to finish that part off. Okay, let me move my paper over. And again, you can pause whenever you need to go do some work. Number 8, look at the pattern. Negative 10, negative 20, negative 30, negative 40. The numbers are getting smaller, so that means I'm going to be doing some subtraction. What do you think we're subtracting? I'm thinking we're subtracting 10. If you want to try it out, what's negative 10 minus 10? They're both bad guys, you get negative 20. And you can do it in the calculator. You can do negative 10, subtract 10, and see what you get. Negative 20, subtract 10, see if you get the next number. Negative 30, subtract 10, see if you get negative 40. If you want to go back and do it the other way, where you're taking a term and subtracting the previous one to see what it is, let's try that. You have a negative 40, and you're going to subtract the previous term, which is a negative 30. So that gives you a double negative when you're doing it, okay? So it's a negative 40, subtract the negative 30. So anytime you're trying to find D, you can take any term and subtract the previous term, and it's going to tell you, subtract 10. It's going to tell you the answer is a negative 10. Okay, so we decided the pattern is minus 10, so the D is a minus 10. A sub 1 is the first term, also negative 10, just happened to start with negative 10, and we are subtracting 10. Explicit formula. A sub n is equal to the first term, and then the pattern, minus 10, your D number, parentheses, n minus 1. We want to find the 38th term, so that's what we're going to use to show the substitution step. A sub 38 is equal to negative 10 minus 10, parentheses, 38 minus 1. So I know the paper says recursive formula, just ignore that because I don't have room here to show that. But I do want you to write down that substitution step. And then you can just say equals and just do the math on this right-hand side, whatever that math is. 38 minus 1 first, you get 37. Multiply it times 10, that gives you a negative 370. And another negative 10 in front of it. So bad guys and bad guys gives you negative 380. Or you can come back and put it up here if you want to, negative 380. Check my math, make sure I did that right in my head. Where's my worksheet? There it is. Ah, I did it right in my head. I always like it when I do things right in my head. Okay, And then the last thing you're going to do is write the recursive formula. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this just so you can see the recursive formula where it goes. So put a big R on your paper if you want to, and big E for the explicit formula. But the recursive is A sub n is equal to A sub n minus 1, and then the D number. And the D is minus 10. So big minus 10, these are the n minus 1 is small down low, the n is small down low. But the subtract 10 is big like the A's are. All right, so there is that. Now you're going to do either 3 down the left-hand side. You're either going to do 9, 11, and 13, or you can choose to do 10, 12, and 14. So one side or the other, you're going to finish off, so you have 5 total for the top. On the bottom, you were doing all 4. So let's go do 2 of them on the bottom, and then you finish off the other 2. But we are doing all 4 on the bottom of this page. This is where they give you the recursive formula. Okay, so they say, given the first term and the recursive formula, find the 5th term. Now, don't get all high-tech on me and say, ooh, I'm going to go use the explicit formula for the 5th term. If you're just looking for the 5th term or the 8th term or even maybe the 10th term, could you just make a list? Sometimes just making a list is easier than trying to do the high-tech version and then making a mistake. So we're just looking for the 5th term, just make a list. What's the first term? 32. Right? So A sub 1 is 32, that's my first number. Here's the recursive formula. When you look at that, the only thing that's numbers in here is the minus 2. That is your pattern. You're subtracting 2. That's why they gave it to you. They're telling you the pattern is subtract 2. So, to get to the next number, I subtract 2. 32 minus 2, 30. 30 minus 2, 28. 28 minus 2, 26. 26 minus 2, 24. Did they tell me how many I wanted to write? They just told me to get to the 5th term, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can stop there. 24 is the 5th term. That's all we're doing on these, okay? So I'm going to do, I'll do 15 and 17, and then y'all can go do the other ones, the other 2, right? So we're going to do all 4 on the bottom. 15, 16, 17, 18. A sub 1 is negative 12. Again, we want to find the 5th term, so I'm just going to make a list. First term, negative 12. There's my comma up here, so that's that information. Then they give me the formula, the recursive formula. The only thing I can see in the recursive formula is plus 200. That tells me the next term is I'm adding 200 to get to the next term. So if I have a negative 12 and I'm adding 200, you might want to do that in the calculator. Put in the 12, make it negative, and add 200 to it. That's going to be a positive 188. Yeah, I think it's 188. And then I'm going to add 200 again, right? So 200 plus 100 gives me 388. And then plus another 200 is 588. Plus another 200 is 788. Do I have 5 yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do. So 788 is the 5th term on that one. All right? So that's what you're doing on those. Do the other 2 over there. So you should have 15, 16, 17, and 18 on your paper. Just make a list. Circle the 5th term. All right, last page. This time, they're giving you a visual pattern. So it's the same sort of thing, except it's a visual pattern. And they love to do these on the STAR test, and they love to do them on college entrance exams. So here we go with this one. Visual pattern. Let me move this over. There we go. So we're doing the left-hand side together. This is like first term, second term, third term, fourth term. And this is the pattern over here. We're counting the blocks. So if it's about the blocks, then you count them and change them into numbers. So I'm going to change all these pictures into numbers. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks stacked up. So the number is 6. Now there's a hole in the middle of this, which is hard to see, so that's why I'm doing this one. So I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks in this one with a hole in the middle. And then I still have a double hole, and I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 blocks here. Do we see the pattern? Yeah, we're adding 2, right? So the next one is going to be a 12. So I'm going to move this up so we can see it. Once we figure out what the pattern is, you don't have to count anymore. You don't have to count the blocks anymore. You can just start the pattern. So 6, 8, 10 is the pattern. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see it. Now that we know what's going on. So this was 6, this was 8, this was 10. We know this one is 12. So that's my pattern. And so this was the first term, second term, third term, fourth term, fifth term. You don't have to draw it. Just how many blocks is it? 14 blocks. Now they're skipping from 5 to 10 here, so they want the 10th term. So we might want to use the explicit formula unless you just want to continue on and make a pattern off to the side and count it to 10. But then they're going to ask for the 58th and the 100th term. So we may as well come up with the explicit formula. So the formula is a sub n, whatever it is equal to the first term, 6 plus 2, that's my d number, parentheses, n minus 1. So that's the formula I'm going to be using over and over again. 6 plus 2, the first term, plus 2, because that's my d, parentheses, n minus 1. So if I want the 10th term, my n is a 10. So if I plug in 10 minus 1 right there, 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. So now I have 6 plus 18. And 6 plus 18 is 24. So the 10th term is 24. I'm just using that explicit formula, plugging in 10 in for the n. Now we want the 58th term. So what am I going to plug in for the n? 58. So now I have a 58 minus 1. That gives me 57. So 57 times 2, and then add 6 to it. That's what we're doing, 57 plus 2, add 6. With my math, let me have this up here where I can see it. 120 is this one. So that's the 100, there are 120 blocks in the 58th picture. Split it for the 100th term, so I'm going to do 100 minus 1. So 100 minus 1 inside here gives me a 99, so then that's 2 times 99 plus 6. So I'm going to do 2 times 99 and add a 6 to it. That's all we're doing is just simplifying the right-hand side with the math. So that gives you 204 blocks. At the bottom, they say this is an n. I know it's hard to read, but it's an n. So they want to know, basically, what is the explicit formula for the nth term, which means what's the generic formula. It's another way to say what's the formula. So the formula is 6 plus 2, parentheses, n minus 1. So whatever number I want to find, I just plug in that number in for the n. So this would be the nth term, whether you're just using the formula, the generic formula for it. Okay? So I did it on this side, you're going to go do it on that side. There are no holes over here. If you count these blocks, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you count this blocks, there's 6, 7. If you count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'll leave you with that to finish that pattern. Okay? We're doing the same numbers over here. They want the 5th term, the 10th term, the 58th term, the 100th term, and then the nth term, which is your explicit formula. Okay? So go find those, and you were done with the worksheet. Have any questions? Come see me in Zoom with me. Bye.